Hello, I'm Dr Elaine Davey. I'm Vice Chair of the Welsh Historic Gardens Trust, a trustee of Ruperra Castle Preservation Trust and Ruperra Conservation Trust. I first became aware of Ruperra Castle from an image in Tom Lloyd's book called The Lost Houses of Wales. And there's this wonderful castle sort of on my doorstep just outside of Cardiff. And there it is, and it's part of a farm. I couldn't believe it, it's extraordinary. We're making this video because of the importance of the site. It's in this wonderful magic green triangle between Caerphilly, Cardiff and Newport, which needs to be protected and enhanced. Caerphilly has done a wonderful job on actually highlighting the importance of this green triangle through their sustainable master plan. The setting is really important to be protected because it's quite a hidden little site, and I think mostly only locals know about it. Describing the castle as it is now, for people that see it as a ruin, it's quite hard to imagine what it would have looked like. We have a sketch that somebody had made of it as it would have looked when it was complete, with quite notable Elizabethan gables. It's on a square plan form, which you can see now. There's a circular tower at each corner, and only the battlements on the circular towers are crenellated. The south porch is still there. It's quite different, but it gives a good idea of how stately it must have looked, how impressive. So we've got one sketch from 1684 by Thomas Dyneley. Near the house there is a formal layout of courtyards, and you progress through the courtyards through the entrance gatehouse and second entrance gatehouse, and then progress up the stairs. You're becoming more and more impressed as more and more of the castle is revealed to you. So close to the castle, the house, there is this formal setting, but beyond that, of course, there's a deer park. And, a very settled landscape in a time when perhaps things had started not to be so settled again. Moving on through the centuries, the family fortunes change, different descendants have different ideas, and fashions are changing. Although we have this document, it's a map of the domain of Ruperra from 1764, and that shows still a very formal layout. The garden around the castle is connected to the wider setting of the woodland on Coed Crag Ruperra behind, and there's a walk up to the motte, but cut into the trees are what they call 5 alleys, which are 5 viewpoints. So as you walk up to the motte, you can see out across the Ruperra Park and out across to the Bristol Channel. This is all an integrated landscape with a summer house to settle in at the top of the walk. It's all about promenading, enjoying the estate. That's quite interesting because even though it shows this formal setting around the castle, still the fashion for sweeping away formal gardens was changing. It's quite a stunning, sophisticated layout of a garden for Wales. And especially for its time, because there were very few people of that status, because with the Tudors, anybody of any wealth or ambition had moved to the Tudor court, and they'd all become quite important courtiers and kept their wealth and power and position in England. So this is another feature about the Morgans, that they retained that level of connection with their roots, their Welshness. The castle had this dreadful fire in the late 1700s and then is rebuilt in a slightly different layout. The elevations are slightly different to what they were originally. The square plan form is still there, the circular towers that are battlemented, and then the crenellations are carried around the whole building. So it's simplified in many ways. And also the setting is simplified because fashions had moved on and formal gardens were going out of fashion. There are still features surviving from the Jacobean period. The wall is there and certain other elements there. And actually, we've never done an archaeological survey under the existing gardens. There may be more there than we think. And certainly the survivals that are there make it very rare in terms of Wales, because it's only at St Donat's and Raglan Castle that there are features of gardens left from that period, apart from Ruperra Castle. One of my favourite images of the castle is the one of Courtney astride his horse, and you can see how well cared for the landscape and the castle is at that stage. It just looks so pretty, it's in that lovely setting, the gardens are well maintained, and the whole place looks just as if it's much loved, which is important. And then you've got that lovely setting of the Coedwig Ruperra behind it. It's just a beautiful image of a time lost, really, sadly, by the First World War. But that is one of my favourite images. And one of my other favourite images, of course, is of the greenhouse astride, as it were, as the centrepiece of this garden. And it's out of all proportion too, really, if you think about it. This huge greenhouse, which has got carnation houses either side, and had a massive team of gardeners working away on this glorious garden. It really is, you know, a sort of the last hurrah of a long gone by age. Post-World War I, it was a national war effort, really, was to grow more timber. So all of that wonderful deciduous woodland was stripped out and conifers were planted. And they remained there for decades and sadly made the soil very sterile. The house, the whole estate of Ruperra was put up for sale, but no buyer could be found. So then, of course, the drums of war start up again, and within a few years, Ruperra is requisitioned for the war effort, for the Second World War effort. During World War II, there was a succession of troops billeted there in December 1941. Because of the relatively old wiring system and the fact that the place was full of soldiers all over, there was an electrical short that resulted in a massive fire. Sadly, it burnt away and it became the shell it is you see now. Ruperra then, of course, is left. I mean, you know, the post-World War II efforts at reclaiming Britain are pretty extensive, and then there was rationing for a long time, which included building materials. So nothing happens to Ruperra until 1956, when it's sold as part of the sale of the whole of the Tredegar estate, all 53,000 acres. And then it enters a period of even greater decline. Quite a few of the people in the local community were sort of alarmed at the state of the castle. And we've been fighting for a better future for the castle and the gardens and the land surrounding it. We failed to buy it when it came up for sale in the early 2000s, but we bought the woodland instead. And that's now 175 acres that are protected and being enhanced as a wonderful, almost like a little nature reserve, really. And a great place for biodiversity. Lots of species are coming back. The whole woodland has come back to life. It has dormice there, great horseshoe bats flying through it. There are great crested newts everywhere. So it just proves that nature can come back when it's given a chance. We still would love the opportunity to buy the castle and see it improved in a way. There are lots of examples now across Wales. We've been very good about appreciating these wonderful historic landscapes that are layered up with stories, layered up with history, layered up with archaeology, incredibly important for what they can contribute to our well-being and the nature of Wales. If you think of Aberglasney is a wonderful example, how that was ruinous and was saved and is now one of the key tourist sites for Wales. Absolutely stunning how they've recreated an ancient garden like Ruperra's around the house and restored parts of the house. Joseph Atkins of Aberglasney, which is, as you know, our model, our aspiration, our dream, he's going to explain all about the gardens at Aberglasney.
Good morning, my name's Joseph Atkin. I'm the head gardener at Aberglasney Gardens, and I'm pleased to give you an introduction into Aberglasney, its history, its restoration, and how we've got to where we are today. So today, Aberglasney is an 11.5 acre garden with about 20 different garden styles. It has been restored over a 20-year period with very many different layers of work that have gone on. And it has been nominated as one of the top 10 formal gardens in the UK. It is also considered one of the best gardens in Wales and is nationally recognised. So after all of this hard work and all the wonderful contributions of various people and societies and so on, Aberglasney has been restored to its former glory, but the journey's not over yet. So the restoration process at Aberglasney, it's been a very long and carefully worked out process with a lot of phases and a lot of layers to it. Over the last 20 years, Aberglasney has made about 9 purchases of land, all of which have come together to put an 11-acre site together. The first phase of the restoration was to do a conservation management plan and do a survey of the entire site as a whole to see what you had that was significant and what was here of value from a heritage point of view. Archaeological surveys were carried out and the site and all of these information was brought together to put a master plan in place. This master plan was then used as a basis for the development of the site as a whole. One of the key features at Aberglasney is the U-tunnel, which you see behind me. It's 350 years old, and originally, 20 years ago, the upper branches of it were actually growing in through the first floor of the house that you see behind me. It's one of the oldest garden features in the whole world, and it has taken 20 years of restoration, careful pruning, careful care to bring this wonderful feature back to its former glory. This is the upper wall garden at Aberglasney, and we consider this to be a piece of successful restoration. We're really pleased with the work and how it all turned out here. Originally, as you can see from the images, this area was completely and utterly derelict and barely recognisable to what we have today. So it was one of the first areas of Aberglasney Gardens that was restored, along with the cloister gardens. We developed a garden which was both a Celtic cross and a herbaceous border. And that was really clever because it's a Welsh garden, so there was the Celtic angle, and it was also a cross, and all of the gardens at Aberglasney have this cruciform design, which keeps our connection to the church because of Bishopbrud, which was really important. Once we'd completed the design, we installed it, and when you walk around it, it's quite lovely because it's something of a Victorian knot garden close up, and then it's a designed cross garden, cruciform garden from a distance. So it works really well. It was a huge amount of work to restore it, and it's like all good herbaceous gardens, it just keeps evolving and keeps developing over time. So after 25 years of hard work, Aberglasney is a fully up and running private charitable trust. With the help of donations and contributions from private, public and government sources, Aberglasney is a real wonderful heritage garden of excellence. Over these 20 years, we've worked to a very clear plan of how we want to develop and where we want to go, and we've created a private charitable trust that is really durable and is safe and safeguarded for the future. Through our experiences at Aberglasney, one of the things we have found is that sharing knowledge is so important, and for people to work together and to collaborate. So there are some key pieces of Aberglasney's experiences that I think are very useful to other people, and one of those is that Aberglasney had a very clear purpose from the beginning. The original benefactors really wanted Aberglasney to be a heritage garden of excellence, and that theme and that philosophy is run through what we do right the way through today, and it continues to be our main purpose as we move forward. The other key piece of advice I would always like to offer is beware of one pitfall, and that is that you can overdevelop the garden to the point where you're not sustainable. As you do each piece of the development, make sure there's a sustainability plan in place for it. So after many years of hard work, it's become a real privilege to be involved with Aberglasney. The whole site is developed and we've provided wonderful opportunities economically, socially and environmentally. But our work's not finished here.
It's been lovely to be involved in this sustainable Caerphilly landscape project because we met all sorts of people with all sorts of different interests to ours. You know, people like to watch things like they say now there's a white-tailed eagle up on Redry Mountain. That's exciting. And we've all learned from each other. It's been a great project. And quite unusually, a bottom-up initiative, which is always to be celebrated, bringing people together, getting them to understand what's on their doorstep. And of course, there are models out there of really good projects, successful projects, such as at Aberglasney, where they've had a similar model to ours, a similar project. And, you know, we've visited there, and Joseph has guided us around the site and explained the amount of dedication and the amount of work, but wow, isn't it worth it? It's a fantastic garden and fantastic house. Really, really excellent, and shows what can be done when people pull together, when communities pull together and learn from one another and celebrate these places and cherish them and make sure they have a future and a worthwhile purpose.